Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of American Patriot. And I'm your host, R. Leland Avellino. And I just wanted to speak on the subject of these continued assassination attempts on Donald Trump. Now, as you know, twice in the last 2 months, someone has tried to assassinate the ex-president of the United States. This time it was someone who lay in wait at a golf course in Florida that Trump likes to play golf at on Sunday. And only by the grace of God, because the Secret Service, who are usually 1 or 2 holes ahead of Trump on the golf course, happened to see this rifle butt sticking out of the bushes there at the golf course. They opened fire on the suspect. He wasn't hit by the Secret Service. He had his getaway car stationed there on the street that was running along the golf course, which has a page fence, and then the golf course is on the other side of the fence because the golf course, of course, is a private club. And so this guy was able to get in his vehicle and drive off, but fortunately a good citizen had seen what was going on and heard the shots fired and was able to take a picture of the suspect's black SUV and also capture a picture of his license plate, and was able to get that information to the police authorities right away. And they were able to activate in Florida their statewide license plate reader system. And they were able to track this vehicle to I-95 heading north. And so the Cook County Sheriff there in Florida was able to stop the vehicle, and there was no incident while they took this person into custody. He didn't ask why he had been stopped or why 4 or 5 police cars were around him, but he was taken into custody, and now he has been identified. And now at least he is alive, as where the other shooter in the last incident up on the roof was killed. Now this person is able to be questioned by the FBI and Secret Service, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And hopefully we'll find out some more information on this individual and look into his background and what was happening. But the purpose of my video is to say that whether you like Donald Trump or not, we all know who he is. He says what's on his mind, and he is not a politician. Let me repeat that. He's not a politician. So he doesn't speak in the proper words and phrases and all those, what I call politician speak, where they say a lot of things, but they don't tell you anything, such as Kamala Harris at the last debate with President Trump. Asked a very direct question: are the people of the United States better off now than they were 4 years ago? And if so, why? And she wasn't able to answer that question. She just started going on to her canned speech about how she was raised in a middle-class family by her mom. Let me just tell you, she was not raised in a middle-class family. She was raised in an upper class because both her mother and father were PhDs and taught at Stanford University and made good money. So she was by no means a middle-class child. And then to get in touch with the middle class, she tries to say, yes, while I was going to school, I worked at McDonald's. She didn't work at McDonald's. There's no record of any McDonald's anywhere near where she went to school ever having her as an employee there. So again, these typical politicians during election year, they say whatever they think you want them to say. And then once they get elected, that goes right out the window. They never do what they say they're going to do. So I wanted to touch on this briefly. But my main point here is that the extreme rhetoric that the left, what I call corporate media, MSNBC, CNN, CNNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, all of them, they continue to call Donald Trump Hitler, Mussolini, a threat to American society. He's going to become a dictator when he gets into office. He's going to prosecute people unnecessarily. All this propaganda that the left-wing media continues to put out has to come to a stop. Because rational people like you and I, when they hear these things, they're able to dismiss it or able to understand it for what it is. But when it comes to the unrational people in our country, such as this fool over here in Florida that tried to take him out at the golf course, when they hear these things, they're not rational, so they think we have to take this man out because he's going to be the next Adolf Hitler, and we can't have that in our country. Or he's going to be a Mussolini, or he's going to be a dictator. And so unrational people are not able to think rationally, and so they do non-rational or unrational things. This is what the left media doesn't seem to understand, and so they continue to promulgate this repeated propaganda, and it's just not going to work, or it shouldn't work, and they shouldn't be allowed to do this. So whoever it is, and my opinion is President Biden needs to go before the camera and talk to the American people and talk to the American press and let them know they need to stop this, because political violence in this country is just not acceptable. And when you think of our founding fathers back in 1787 trying to put together a constitution, they were very concerned with this, and they were very concerned with the power of the public and the power of the press, even though they wanted a free press, but they also wanted to put in checks and balances so that these kind of things that we're experiencing now cannot continue to happen. And again, the main premise of the founding fathers during the writing of the Constitution was consent of the governed. In other words, they wanted to place checks and balances in there. So even though the average public American, whatever you are, plumber, electrician, carpenter, McDonald's worker, whatever you are, we're not all able to go to Washington and voice our opinions. So we elect our representatives through the House of Representatives, and we expect those people to speak on our behalf. Because again, that's how you get consent of the governed. They are not going to pass any laws that are contrary to what the public, us, or the people, or the governed, however you want to look at it, are going to stand for. Because why? If they do things and say things that we do not agree with, then in 2 years, we will simply vote them out of office. And the United States Senate, which is set up on a 6-year term, is also the same way. When these elections come around every 6 years, in every election you have half of the 50 senators coming up for election in each election cycle. This allows the will of the people, or the consent of the people, if you will, to dictate to our Congress how and what we want our representatives to do. So again, I wanted to touch on this briefly. I appreciate all you listeners on YouTube, Facebook, and also on my podcast, American Patriot, which you can find on Spotify or any of your other platforms for podcasts. And I just want to make the point again that this November will be the most important election in my lifetime, and I'm sure in your lifetime as well. So we need to speak out, and we need to let our government know what we want and who we want to be the president of this constitutional republic that we live in. And so I would ask that we all do our part, go out, take our place during the voting cycle, speak to people we know, friends, family, etc. And if every person would speak to 10 or 20 people who are going to vote and tell them how important this election is, I think we would have a clearer, more concise vote that we know is the consent of the governed. So I thank you for your time. And until next time, this is your host of American Patriot, R. Leland Avellino, saying thanks for watching, and I hope you'll watch me on my next video or podcast. Thanks so much. Take care.